Hey everyone, and welcome back to another cryptocurrency video. In today's video we will be discussing the Bitcoin dominance and why I believe it is such an important metric. If you like this type of content, make sure you hit that thumbs up, make sure you hit that subscribe button as it means a lot to me. And if you are a fan of cryptocurrency, I have a cryptocurrency shop where you can shop cryptocurrency products. I'll leave a link in the description down below so you can get a nice discount off your next crypto purchase. So without further ado, let's begin. And let's begin with one of the tweets that I posted earlier on X. And I said, the real alt season is not here. Bummer, right? Yes, throw the tomatoes at me because I know it is not a popular opinion. I go on to say the narrative for alt season will stem from three things. One, if Ethereum hits an all-time high. Two, if the Ethereum spot ETF gets accepted in May, or when it is proposed to be accepted in May. And three, when QE returns. I will slowly be DCAing into altcoins from May until December. For those that don't know, I am Bitcoin heavy. The majority of my portfolio is Bitcoin, and I have some dry powder in cash to sit on in case of any major crashes. I know it is not a popular opinion, but I want to provide an unbiased perspective so that individuals watching this video can understand the opposite end of the spectrum instead of just watching biased bullish videos, that they're highly attracted to. Probably hence why I do only have 10 to 20 views on my videos. But if you are watching this, please hit that like button because I'm trying to provide as much valuable content as possible because I do believe that the Bitcoin dominance metric is one of the most important metrics within cryptocurrency. And why do I say this? I say this because I speak from experience, and I joined last cycles, guys, and when I first joined crypto, the first cryptocurrency I bought was ADA Cardano. Why? Because I downloaded a cryptocurrency app. I downloaded Binance. And what did I do? I saw and I joined crypto because Bitcoin was making headlines. And as Bitcoin was making headlines, I went onto the app and I saw the price of Bitcoin when it was around 38 to 40k back in the beginning of 2021, back end of 2020. And I was like, this cryptocurrency looks expensive. I don't want to buy this at 40k as I am retail myself. So what did I go and do? I bought the next cheapest altcoin. I didn't want to buy Ethereum because the Ethereum was around $900 at the time. Cardano was number 3 market cap at the time and it was only around 70p pence, which was around 85 cents. So what did I do? I bought a shit ton of Cardano at 75 cents. So speaking from experience, if I understood the Bitcoin dominance metric, I wouldn't have YOLO'd into ADA at the beginning of my cryptocurrency journey. I'm going to go through a few charts and speak on some analysis and provide some insight as to why I believe the Bitcoin dominance hasn't topped out here and why we will not get an alt season. And by alt season, guys, if I just quickly look at the Ethereum USD chart, I'm not speaking about this, which is what happened last cycle, and there we go. I'm not speaking about the mid-cycle peak, that Ethereum had, and I'm sure individuals were calling for an alt season here and an alt season here. I don't care about these alt seasons, these mini alt seasons, these mini bull markets right here. What I care about is these lengthy bull markets. Because this was essentially a 40x for Ethereum, whereas these were only 3 to 4x's. Yes, I know 3 to 4x's are nice, and we do like them. They're better than nothing, but I would rather play the game properly and ensure myself a 40x move by an altcoin rather than a 3 to 4x, because understanding the Bitcoin dominance will allow you to preserve your cryptocurrency portfolio and maximize your risk-adjusted returns. Have you ever noticed that on a cryptocurrency centralized exchange, or on a decentralized exchange for that fact, you can view your portfolio in its Satoshi valuation? Not only can you see it against fiat valuation, just like the pound or the US dollar, you can compare your portfolio with regards to its Satoshi value. So not only when investing in an altcoin, you should look at its USD value. You should also look at it against its Bitcoin value. And I'm going to go through a couple of examples. But before I do, I just want to look at the Bitcoin dominance chart because we are currently at 53.57%. And we do have this thing of the Fibonacci. I don't like to put too much weight into it. I'm sure you guys have probably seen this as well. But if we take a Fibonacci from last cycle, you can see that the Bitcoin dominance topped out around that 618%, around 618 fib level, sorry, which was around 73.10%. If we take it from the top of last cycle and put it to the low of this cycle, you can see that Bitcoin is essentially close enough to touching the 0.5 level, but that 618 level is at 60%. I do believe that Bitcoin will eventually make its way towards that 58 to 60%. Will we touch that 60%? Who knows? But I will be DCing into altcoins from May onwards, as I said in my tweet. When will I do so? May onwards. Why May onwards? Because I don't think that the Bitcoin dominance has topped out yet. And why is that? There's two reasons. Yeah. If I overlay the interest rates to the Bitcoin dominance chart, and I know we only have one data point for this, but it is the only data point that we can go off of. If we take a look at last cycle, when did the Bitcoin dominance peak? The Bitcoin dominance peaked when the Fed cut for the second time. Not the first time, but the second time. So what would that essentially look like if that was to repeat? And I know history doesn't repeat, but it does often rhyme. And why does it rhyme? Because it makes sense. Why does this make sense? Why does the Fed cutting rates for the second time make sense for the Bitcoin dominance to peak? Well, this also happens in the stock market. When there is a strict monetary policy, investors, whales, institutions, they like to move their funds from higher risk assets to lower risk assets. Hence why the Bitcoin dominance has been in an up only trend since September of 2022. So why does that happen? Well, you have to think, during strict monetary policies, investors feel the fear. They feel that the economy is contracting. So liquidity from higher risk assets make their way back to lower risk assets. And just like in the stock market, how the higher risk assets make their way, or the liquidity from the higher risk assets make their way to the Magnificent Seven. Hence why the Magnificent Seven makes up a stupid amount of the S&P 500. The equivalent to that in cryptocurrency is liquidity from the altcoins going into Ethereum, but the majority of the liquidity is going into Bitcoin, and also Ethereum bleeds against Bitcoin. I'm going to look at the Ethereum Bitcoin chart as well, because that is also very important when discussing alt season. Hence why I mentioned if ETH hits an all-time high. This spot ETF is just a narrative, and this QE return is a macro thing. Yeah. Okay, so when is the Fed going to cut interest rates for the first time? And it is looking likely it will be in June. That is when the first rate cut is deemed to be a thing, according to the market makers. Obviously, no one knows when that's going to happen. We just have to wait and see. But it does make sense that the Bitcoin dominance will top out once the Fed cuts for the second time. You can also see that in last cycle, the Bitcoin dominance had a double top when we returned to QE. And that is because during the first half of a bull market, it is all about Bitcoin. Another narrative. Bitcoin has to move first before the altcoin market can move. This is why it is great to have a Bitcoin portfolio at the beginning of the bull market before shifting to altcoins. If Bitcoin doesn't move, altcoins do nothing. Hence why you can see that the Bitcoin dominance peaked out again and made a double peak as soon as QE returned. And once QE was into the full swing of things, that is when we got a true alt season, where the Bitcoin dominance dropped from 73.64% all the way down to 38%. And it stayed there for quite a while. So Bitcoin is the king, and it likes to remind everyone that it is the king, because how many times has Bitcoin put in a new all-time high in just the last couple of weeks? A few times, right? 3 times or so. Whereas every other altcoin that has been created in prior cycles, so your Ethereums, your Cardanos, your BNB, your XRPs, your Dogecoin, your Litecoin, you know, Solana, AVAX, the list goes on and on and on. There's only a very select few cryptocurrencies that have made all-time highs. But with regards to the full altcoin portfolio, they have severely underperformed against Bitcoin, hence why Bitcoin dominance has been in an uptrend since the end of 2022. Now, I want to show you guys an important chart to also prove why I believe the worst is yet to come for altcoins, because if we take a look at the chart, and I'm gonna throw up here total free, and total free is the collective altcoin market minus Ethereum. So total free does not include Ethereum as an altcoin. So we're going to do total free minus USDT, and the reason why we minus USDT is because, actually let me bring up the chart first before I tell you the reason as to why. So the reason why we like to remove USDT is because back in 2018, 2019, stable coins weren't really a big thing as they are now. So to make it make the most sense, and for us to compare it to prior cycles, we just have to remove USDT, because USDT does make 100 billion of the altcoin market, because it is essentially classed as an altcoin. So if we remove 100 billion just from USDT, you legit just have altcoins. Yeah, altcoins minus Ethereum. So what do we see from this chart? What do we see from this chart? If we look at last cycle, yeah, it had a peak and another peak, just like how the Ethereum Bitcoin chart looks. But after having this midterm pullback, just like we have had here, you know, we've had a peak here and then we've had a peak here. It's very similar to the Ethereum Bitcoin chart, but after we had this midterm peak and then a dead cat bounce to a lower high, it made a low, just like it has done so here. Yeah, I mean, this chart just looks very cyclical. I don't even need to do or conduct any sort of technical analysis for you guys to understand that it is very cyclical. Because once it made a low, it then made a high. Yeah, or a dead cat bounce. And the same again, it's made a little high. So what has happened, essentially, what happened when this chart, total free minus USDT divided by Bitcoin, break down to the downside? Because we have not had that yet, which is why I think that the Bitcoin dominance will go up and why altcoins will not have an alt season yet. If we do this and we just take it like that, okay, you can see that once touching the bottom, altcoins made a rally against Bitcoin, but then ultimately plummeted down. Yeah, just like here. Altcoins put in a low, then bounced against Bitcoin, but I do believe we're going to have a new low coming soon. And this is reflective in not only the altcoins chart against Bitcoin, but it's also reflective in the Ethereum Bitcoin chart. And that is why I'm not looking to invest into altcoins until May, because you have to give a couple of months for these things to play out. For example, yeah, at this point where altcoins made a low against Bitcoin to the breakdown point, it was around 42 weeks before the altcoins finally broke down. And when it finally broke down, that was on a Bitcoin pump. Because if we overlay this against the Bitcoin chart, Bitcoin USDT by the way, if we set a new price scale, yeah, you can see, and if I draw a line just to make it more visually obvious, last cycle Bitcoin made a high in June of 2019. And when did this chart break down? This chart broke down where? of course, in June of 2019. So the altcoins broke down against Bitcoin because Bitcoin broke out in price and made a new high, well, a mid-cycle high, and it broke all the way down. So that wasn't the low for altcoins. The low for altcoins came in when we had the pandemic, which was right here. Yeah, when we had the recession right here. And that would have been a great time to invest or DCA into altcoins, because if we take a look at this time, for example, how long has it been so far? Well, since the low and the high, it's been around 37 weeks so far. So if we compare it to last cycle, that's a 5-week difference. So we've still got another 5 weeks to potentially get to that point before the altcoins break down. This sort of does mean at the same time that maybe Bitcoin hasn't put in its mid-cycle high yet. So Bitcoin has further room to grow because Bitcoin hasn't sucked out all of the liquidity just yet. Last cycle, Bitcoin sucked out all the liquidity when it made a new mid-cycle high, which broke down this chart, and Bitcoin continued to suck out liquidity out of the altcoins as it continued to make a downtrend. So do you see what I'm saying? If this chart breaks down to the downside because of a Bitcoin pump, that means Bitcoin has not fully put in its new all-time high yet, and then altcoins will break down and will continue to break down even when Bitcoin has a downtrend. And that is why I'm deciding to slowly DCA from May until December, because if history repeats, it doesn't have to rhyme exactly, but if it just repeats, that means I would have invested into altcoins during this whole move right here. Yeah. And not only is that a great thing, because at the bottom here, yes, altcoins didn't put in a low against a USD value, but they did against their Bitcoin value, and then after altcoins put in a low against the USD value. So not only am I DCAing when altcoins are against their Bitcoin pairing, I'm also DCAing into altcoins against their USD lows. Do you understand? So if we just quickly compare this to the Ethereum Bitcoin chart, and I know some of you guys have probably seen this before, but if I just take this away, it's the same thing with Ethereum, right? Because it happens every single cycle when people call out for an alt season, but it never happens. It has never happened. If we take a look here, what happened at this point right here? Ethereum Bitcoin broke down. Yeah. Same thing that happened here. What happened? Ethereum Bitcoin broke down. And what's going to happen again? It just seems to be that the cycle repeats, but it just takes longer each cycle. Because as each cycle grows, altcoins become more... What's the word I'm looking for? Altcoins become more recognized within the cryptocurrency asset class. Hence why it does take longer for the liquidities to switch over from altcoins into Bitcoin. Because you can see a few cycles ago, look how quick the move was. It was just this piece right here. 2 cycles ago, look how quick the move was. I mean, it was a lot longer than the first cycle, but look how short it is in comparison to this cycle now, where it still hasn't even played out just yet. So that is why I'm keen to wait, and if we do overlay this with the Bitcoin chart once again, it will be very similar to the chart I just showed you. But these breakdown points, so right here, and we will get into one right here. Those will be the best times to invest into altcoins, yeah, or slowly DCA into altcoins, because if you start to DCA once it breaks down, that means Bitcoin will then cool off for a bit, but still suck up liquidity from the altcoins. So you're DCAing into altcoins, and then the altcoins will make new lows against its USD value. So if you just DCA'd into altcoins at just this part right here, you would have caught the altcoin run, the massive altcoin run in 2017. Same again last cycle. If you started to DCA into altcoins as soon as it broke down, you would have caught this downtrend on Bitcoin, but for altcoins, when altcoins made lows, and then obviously the pandemic happened, the recession happened. So if you DCA'd completely from when the point of altcoins breaking down against Bitcoin, especially Ethereum, you would have DCA'd all of this bit, and then you would have caught this massive altcoin run. Because at this point, Bitcoin doesn't have much room to grow once the bull market's actually here. It might go up another 4 to 5x at these levels. Bitcoin's already made an all-time high. So your risk-adjusted returns should mean that you should look at projects that will make you more returns than Bitcoin would. And altcoins will definitely make more returns than Bitcoin would. I'm not a Bitcoin maxi. I just understand the Bitcoin dominance, which is why I want you to understand the Bitcoin dominance, because I want you to maximize your risk-adjusted returns. So I will be DCAing into altcoins once Ethereum Bitcoin breaks down and once total free minus USDT divided by Bitcoin breaks down. I hope you've all understood that lesson. I mean, if you need anything, let me know in the comment section down below. I'll try my best to explain it, maybe in another video. But hopefully you've understood and have taken on board some valuable insight or some valuable information with regards to the Bitcoin dominance and how you can preserve your Satoshi portfolio and how you can essentially maximize your risk-adjusted returns. So that's it from me today, guys. I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, smash that thumbs up, smash that subscribe button, and as always, it's been your boy J1 General. Thank you and goodbye.